Some stories don't start with violence. They start with silence. With a girl watching her own home slip away, her mother gone, her father blind, and his new girlfriend ready to push her out like she never mattered. But this time she pushed back. Not with fists, not with screams, with truth, and one very angry grandmother.
I didn't expect to still be living with my dad at 22. I had plans, college, a part-time job, and a small group of friends. I wasn't lazy or lost. Life just didn't go the way I thought it would after Mom died. She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Fast, cruel, and consuming. After that, it was just me and Dad. He changed. Quieter. Angrier. Not violent, just absent. We didn't talk much, we coexisted. I kept going to classes, came home, cooked, did laundry. He worked late. I figured grief made people different. I didn't push him. I missed Mom too much to care about anything else. Then about a year after she passed, he brought someone home. He didn't explain who she was, just said her name was Celeste and that she'd be staying for a while. She was maybe 10 years younger than him, which already felt weird. Always too perfect, hair done, nails perfect, voice sugar sweet with a bite underneath. At first, she tried to be friendly. Fake little smiles, fake compliments, questions that felt like interviews. I kept my distance, but I knew something was off. The way she moved around the house, like she owned it. The way she spoke to my dad when she thought I wasn't listening. Sharp, cold, demanding. A few weeks later, she started taking over. Subtle things. She rearranged the kitchen, took down a photo of my mom, bought throw pillows that clashed with everything, claimed she was just making it feel more alive. My room stayed untouched, but only because I never let her in. I started noticing my dad treating her words like law. If she said something was annoying, it stopped. If she said she didn't like the smell of a certain soap, it was gone. If she accidentally mentioned that maybe I should start looking for a place of my own, he brought it up that night over dinner. I laughed. I thought it was a joke, but his face was dead serious. I asked why. He said it was time I spread my wings. I stared at him. Spread my wings? I cooked. I cleaned. I stayed out of trouble. I was in school. We had the space. What wings was I supposed to spread when I was barely scraping by with tuition and minimum wage hours? He shrugged, said Celeste thought I needed space to grow. That phrase haunted me for days. Space to grow. I started digging. Nothing crazy. Just a little Googling, some old photos, timelines. I remembered Celeste's name before she moved in. I'd seen it once, years ago, on a text Mom once showed me during an argument. Some random coworker, Dad swore. A meaningless flirtation. He promised it was nothing. Mom forgave him. Now I wasn't so sure. I looked at the dates. He met Celeste way before Mom died. Maybe even while she was still fighting for her life. It made me sick. But the worst part was how Celeste started treating me like a parasite. She stopped pretending. No more fake smiles. Just comments about how grown girls shouldn't cling to Daddy's wallet, and how some of us earned our place here. One day, she told me flat out, maybe it's time you look for something else. A studio. A roommate situation. Said it with a glass of wine in her hand like she was talking about the weather. I told my dad. He shrugged. Said maybe she was right. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I packed a bag and drove to the only person I knew would listen. My grandma. His mom. She opened the door before I even knocked, like she knew I was coming. I hadn't seen her in months. Celeste didn't like her much, so visits became rare. I sat in her kitchen and told her everything. The texts. The photos. The slow eviction. My dad's silence. I pulled the folder from my bag and slid it across the table. The texts, screenshots, even the old receipts I found in the drawer when Celeste moved in. I had printed it all out. I didn't know what she'd do with it. I just needed someone else to see it. Someone who'd believe me. She didn't interrupt. Just poured tea and listened with that terrifying calm only grandmothers have when they're already building a plan in their head. When I finished, she put down her cup and said one sentence. That woman doesn't know who she's messing with. I thought she meant me. But she didn't. Grandma didn't wait long. The very next day, she called my dad and invited him and Celeste over for dinner. No explanation. Just her usual firm, polite tone. The kind you don't argue with. He agreed. She told me to be there, but quiet. Let her do the talking. I wasn't sure what she planned, but I trusted her more than anyone at that point. That evening, I sat in her living room while she set the table with real silverware and heavy porcelain plates, the kind she only used for holidays or war. When the doorbell rang, she didn't flinch. My dad walked in first, looking tired, like always. Behind him was Celeste, dressed like she was going to brunch with some influencer, not dinner at his mother's. Tight dress, full makeup, fake grin. She barely looked at me. Grandma didn't greet her warmly, just nodded and said, "Sit." We ate in silence for a while. Tension built with every clink of fork against plate. My dad made small talk about work. Celeste commented on the roast. I didn't say a word. Then Grandma stood up, left the room, and came back with a small manila folder. She placed it on the table. No one touched it. No one said anything. Until she spoke. "Do you remember the year you and Martha had your first rough patch?" she said to my dad, voice calm. He looked confused. "Maybe? Around when she got sick the first time?" Grandma nodded. "That's when you stopped coming to Sunday dinner. That's when you got busy. That's also when this woman started popping up." Celeste let out a laugh, tried to dismiss it, but Grandma shut it down with a look sharp enough to slice the air. "I know what you did," she said. "I know when it started." She opened the folder and pulled out printed emails, time-stamped texts, receipts from dinners and hotels. She didn't even look at Celeste. Just kept her eyes on her son. "You cheated on your wife while she was dying," she said. "And then you brought the woman who helped you destroy your marriage into the house you built with her. You didn't just move on. You replaced her like she was a broken lamp." The silence in the room was deafening. My dad looked pale. Celeste opened her mouth, but Grandma cut her off. "Don't. Just don't. I have more, if you want me to read aloud. But I think you know what you did. And I think everyone at this table does now too." Then she turned to me and said, "You have nothing to apologize for. This is still your family. Still your home." She turned back to my dad. "And if she goes alone. You make one more move to push your daughter out of that house, and I will make sure every sibling, cousin, neighbor, and friend knows exactly what kind of man you've become." My dad didn't say anything. Celeste stared at the table like she wanted to fall through it. Grandma stood. "Dinner's over," she said, "and I'm too old for cowards. You can show yourselves out." They left in silence, no goodbyes, no slammed doors, just shame in the air, heavy and loud. I stayed the night. Grandma poured me tea again, this time with a hand on mine. "I don't enjoy hurting people," she said, "but some truths rot if you don't bring them into the light. You did the right thing, sweetheart. No one else was going to." The next morning, I went back home. My dad was in the kitchen. Alone. He looked like someone had turned the volume of his life all the way down. He didn't say much, just asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes. And for the first time in what felt like years, we sat in the same room without a wall of silence between us. Celeste wasn't there. She didn't come back that night. Or the next. 2 days later, her stuff was gone. No note. No explanation. Just emptiness. The silence after she left was strange. Not peaceful, not tense. Just hollow. Like a room that used to be full of noise, but now only remembers the echoes. My dad barely spoke for the first few days. I didn't either. We moved around the house like people who had just survived a fire. Careful. Quiet. Not sure what was still standing. He didn't ask where I had been. I didn't ask if he missed her. He made coffee every morning and left a cup for me on the table. That was our language. Quiet offerings. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. One afternoon, I came home from class and found him sitting in the garage, staring at a box of old photo albums. He didn't look up when I walked in. Just opened a page and said, this was her favorite beach. I looked. My mom, in sunglasses, holding me as a baby, whined in her hair, laughing at something off camera. He didn't say Celeste's name, didn't mention the fight, just flipped through page after page like he was digging through guilt with his bare hands. I sat down beside him. We didn't speak, but I stayed until sunset. That was the first time I saw him cry. Not loud, just a single tear that slid down without asking permission. And then he said, I don't even know how it got this far, I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything, we just sat in the quiet together. That weekend, Grandma came over. She didn't knock. She never did. She brought groceries, marched in like a queen reclaiming her palace, and told him to get up and help unload. He obeyed without a word. I watched them from the hallway. She put him to work, chopping vegetables, wiping down the counters, setting the table. It was the first time in months I saw him moving like a real person, not just floating through the house. At dinner, she talked about old stories, how he used to sneak cookies as a kid, how my mom once made a birthday cake that caught fire. For a moment, it felt like a family again. Not perfect, but breathing. After she left, he stood in the kitchen for a long time, then turned to me and said, "I owe you an apology. Not just for what happened, for the way I've been since your mom died. I let myself disappear. I thought I was protecting you from my grief. But really, I just left you alone in it. I wanted to say, yes, you did. You vanished. You let her move in like a virus and pretended nothing was wrong. You made me feel like a guest in my own home. But I didn't. Because something about the way he said it, not rehearsed, not dramatic, just real, cracked and heavy and real. It made it impossible to hate him. I nodded. He asked if I was okay. I said I didn't know. He nodded too. That was enough. In the weeks that followed, we started cleaning the house. Really cleaning. Throwing out things we didn't need. Rearranging furniture. Repainting the hallway Mom used to hate. We even pulled old family photos out of boxes and put them back on the walls. Slowly, the house stopped looking like hers, Celeste's, and started looking like ours again. One day, Grandma dropped off a plant and said, "This place needs life again." It was a small thing. A fern. But it sat on the windowsill like a flag in the ground. A marker. Something new. One night, I asked my dad why he never said anything when she started trying to push me out. He looked ashamed. Said he thought maybe I really did need space. That maybe I'd resent him less if I was free to go. I told him that wasn't freedom. That was abandonment dressed up as permission. He nodded again. Said he knows now. That he's sorry. And that if I decide to leave one day, it should be on my own terms. Not because someone made me feel like I didn't belong. That meant more than I expected. We're not perfect. He still gets quiet sometimes. I still flinch when I hear heels on the hardwood floor, like expecting her to walk in again. But we're here. Together. Not healed. But healing. One slow, awkward, necessary conversation at a time. It's been a few months now. The house feels different. Not just because she's gone, but because we finally made it ours again. I moved some of Mom's old books back to the shelves, found a candle she used to love, and lit it on a rainy afternoon. It didn't make me cry. It made me feel close to her again. My dad still struggles. I catch him staring into space sometimes, like he's waiting for a version of life that never came. But he's trying. He goes to work. He makes jokes again. He asked if I wanted to take a weekend trip together. Just the two of us, like when I was little. I said maybe. That's something. Sometimes I wonder how long it would have gone on if I hadn't said anything, if I had kept letting her take up more space, until eventually there was no room left for me. I think about how easily people like her wrap themselves around someone's grief and call it love. I think about how many people probably live like that, slowly shrinking inside their own homes. I almost did. But I didn't. I opened my mouth, I found someone who believed me, and we pulled it all into the light. Grandma still calls me every few days. Sometimes she just wants to talk about TV. Sometimes she asks if I'm okay. She never pushes. She just listens. And that's enough. She says blood doesn't make someone family. Effort does. And that if someone truly loves you, they don't make you feel like you're in the way. I think about that a lot. About how easy it is to mistake survival for peace. I used to tell myself things weren't that bad. That I had a roof and food and school. But the truth is, safety isn't just about physical space. It's about not having to flinch when someone speaks, not having to earn your right to be in your own home, not feeling like your presence is a problem. Now, for the first time in years, I wake up without tension in my chest. I eat breakfast without bracing for a comment. I come home knowing I'm welcome, not because someone tolerates me, but because they want me there. I still have nightmares sometimes, not of her exactly, but of being invisible, of talking and no one hearing, of packing my things while people laugh in the next room. But those dreams don't win anymore. I'm not the same girl I was a year ago. I'm louder now, not in volume, in presence. in truth, in knowing what I'll never tolerate again. My dad and I aren't best friends. We're two people rebuilding a bridge that we both helped destroy. But we're building, brick by brick. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for. Forgiveness isn't a lightning strike. It's a quiet choice you make 1,000 times. Every time you answer the phone, every time you show up, every time you look someone in the eye and decide to stay open. Some days I'm still angry. But I don't carry it anymore. I set it down somewhere between my grandmother's kitchen table and that moment at dinner when the truth hit like thunder. That was the moment I stopped shrinking. That was the moment I realized I had a voice, and that it mattered. Maybe that's what growing up really is. Not just learning who you are, but learning who gets to be near you. Who earns the right to stay? I don't know if Celeste ever regrets what she did. I don't think about her much. She's not the villain in my story anymore. She's just a chapter, one that ends with a slammed door and a table full of silence. And me, still standing, still here, still whole. So now I ask you, what would you have done? If someone tried to erase you from your own home, would you have stayed quiet or burned every lie to the ground?
She stood her ground. She exposed the lies. And she finally took her place back in the home they tried to erase her from. But that choice, that moment, it cost her everything she thought she knew about her father. So tell me, if your family was being rewritten in front of you, would you stay silent, or would you burn the page and start again?